We've always had room in our hearts for film and TV, not just on Netflix, but tape and disc in theaters. Also, God forbid that they take it all away and leave us nothing to broadcast to loyal listeners. We'll binge watch every single movie, so you don't have to. What else are we here for? Coming to you every week. Listen to us while you're busy. Luckily, we forgot to grow up. Hey everybody, it's Craig.
Hey, it's Scott.
Hey, it's Andrew.
Welcome to episode number 45 of the Forgot to Grow Up podcast. On this week's episode of the podcast, we're going to talk about what we watched this week. And that'll probably include our actual topic, buddy cop movies.
Buddy cops.
That's all I got. This is what I got for intros, guys. What more do you want?
Fair enough. It's pretty short.
You've come up with all of them so far.
If you don't,
short, sweet.
If you don't know what a buddy cop movie is,
give us a definition.
You've probably seen a buddy cop movie because I'm about to describe it to you, and you'd be like, "Oh yeah, that's exactly like this movie." Basically,
also in the name.
Basically, a buddy cop movie is, I know it's pretty self-explanatory. It is literally what the title is. However, the irony, or I guess the opposite portion of the buddy cop movie is that they don't start off as buddies.
Never.
They should be very different people. So it's basically when two very different people get together to solve a crime or stop a criminal or something along those lines. They don't have to be cops, but but there has to be at least one who's technically involved in law enforcement, and the other one can be whatever. They could be a criminal who's forced into helping them, which adds to the whole we're two entirely different opposite things. It's really a crutch. Or they could be another law enforcement person who's just like the complete opposite of the other person. But that's a buddy cop movie. So you've seen one. I know you have, unless all you've seen is Disney movies. But then you need to make a case for why a Disney movie is a buddy cop movie. Otherwise, I don't know.
Well, now I'm trying to think which Disney movie is a buddy cop movie.
I actually can't think of one.
I'm going to Google it, see what the answers are.
Well, I was trying to cheat and go with a Marvel movie.
Well,
but that's really stretching it.
Here we go. Zootopia. Oh, that's a legit one.
It is a buddy cop movie.
That one is legit.
Think of that too. I haven't seen that one, but I know that's he's like some kind of detective or private investigator, right, or something in the Fox.
No.
Yeah.
Detective.
Well, the fox is a criminal, and then the bunny rabbit
is a con artist.
Is the cop. What was that? He is con artist.
Con artist.
That's a criminal.
A lot more sense. Yeah. Anyways,
but that's not on my list because I forgot that it was a thing.
Yeah, I've never seen that one, so that's definitely why it's not on my list. But the first one on my list, we'll go with is the Lethal Weapons one. Those are probably my favorite buddy cop movies. The ones that stick out to me when you say buddy cop, the first thing that comes to mind is usually Lethal Weapon for me. I love Riggs and Murtaugh. I couldn't get that out right. Just such a great combination. Exactly kind of what like Craig was describing with the two opposites of law enforcement. They're both in the LAPD, but they're very, very much opposites. You know, Murtaugh being the by the book guy, and Riggs being crazy. You
didn't put enough emphasis on being crazy.
Let me go for that again. And Riggs being crazy.
There we go.
Okay, thanks. But yeah, those ones are just, I love those movies. I remember I used to watch those growing up with my grandpa and my family all around, and it definitely should not have watched it how young I did, but I did anyways because they were awesome.
You need to learn about life.
Every single episode with you, Scott.
Yeah, well, I think it speaks a lot to how I turned out as a person.
Yeah. You watch the kid movies when you're an adult and you feel nostalgic for what you missed out on as a child.
Yeah.
But you watch the adult movies as a kid to become hardened and hollow inside.
Like a husk.
Exactly.
I was going to make a past girlfriends joke again, but again, couldn't
probably
get it concise
put
enough.
Those in the episode, Scott. You should save those for the preamble.
Gonna harden my heart. Gonna swallow my tears.
Yep. Karaoke on the Forgot to Grow Up podcast.
That's it.
Anywho, Lethal Weapons. The only thing I like kind of disappoints me about the Lethal Weapon franchise is now that there's a TV show.
Yeah,
that I wasn't super psyched about.
Honestly, I'm at a point where I'm just disappointed with everything from 80s, 90s, just because they've made everything. Like every idea that could be conceived for cinema has been made in some description.
Yeah.
So now we've just hit that let's recycle it and let's just make money off nostalgia level, which like I get. Like you have a mass market for it and everyone under the age of 30 right now, but it just bums me out. Like, leave good things alone.
There's certain things you can just leave, exactly. Like, and it's like, it's the thing about, I've talked about Lethal Weapon in particular before, but like that franchise, it didn't need to be expanded on. Like, you had 4 movies. Not a lot of, action franchises or franchises in general get 4 movies, but there was
especially
4
from back then.
And they're like, oh no, we need to expand on that more. Or like reboot it with a new TV show, take it from a different angle. And it's like, but why? Come up with That's not what we're talking about today.
Well, I haven't watched it. Just out of curiosity, is it the same characters? Like, I know they use the same complexions. I'm not going to say the same. Like,
I believe they are they are Riggs and Murtaugh.
Like
a new Riggs and Murtaugh. Yeah.
That's even more of a cop out to me. Like, I hate seeing the same characters played by different people. Yeah. Like, just especially when they don't look like the previous version. Like, I hate it.
Well, see, I'm not as, like, that doesn't, me, it's more like the connection to the story or, like, the franchise, right? So, like, if they had a good reason, like, oh, this is somehow, like, a prequel, or this is, that's the thing, like, it's not like it's a sci-fi show, so it's like, if it was sci-fi, then I'd accept alternate dimension, but it was just an action franchise. You didn't need a retake on it. A retake on it is just a different cop movie. And it's just like, you didn't want to come up with new names? That was like a new backstory? Like,
Scott and Craig. There we go. Boom. I solved the issue.
There we go.
There we go. I'll be the kind of grizzled veteran captain who's like, guys, you can't do this. Like, you
can't blow up a whole block and run around in your boxers.
Looking at you, Craig.
Why not?
Because it's turn in your badge. Turn in your badge. Because obviously Craig would be...
The crazy one?
Would be Riggs. Obviously Craig would be Riggs. He'd be Craigs.
Without question.
But outside of... You don't know us.
Yeah, Scott.
He's got secrets.
If that's even your
I
real
know
name.
Riggs is what I know, though. I know Riggs. And
if that's your real name.
Let's move on.
Okay. Outside of the Lethal Weapon movies, what else do you have?
The next one is probably my second favorite, like, buddy cop thing that I think of, which is Rush Hour. My man Jackie Chan. I love him.
I didn't even have that on my list because I'm not a fan.
It comes in at number 11 on IMDb's list.
Yeah,
which doesn't appear to be in any specific order.
Which also happens to be the Craig list.
Well, it's the Craig list because Craig's only seen a couple of the movies that are on
the Welcome Back Coiter list.
The Welcome Back Coiter list, yeah. Speaking of shows that should never be rebooted.
But I know you're not the biggest. Is it that you're not a fan of Jackie Chan? Is that correct, Andrew? Is that what
I don't like the campiness of it, but for that one for me, it's got to be Chris Tucker.
Okay. Which I could kind of see.
Like, it's just his voice. I don't like women with voices that high. Like, why would I want to listen to a man speak?
Person. Why would you remind me?
Like,
because I'm talking Rush Hour.
my inner Ron Swanson comes out where I'm just like, listen, son, no. You just can't do that. Like, be a little more reserved. Bring it down, okay? Force yourself down.
But that's what I love about him. Like, he's an 11. He's an 11 guy. And, like, I would agree normally. Like, most of the time I'm with you on that kind of thing. He's the exception, I think, to the rule. For me, at least. For me. Just for me. I get why nobody else... And the rest of the world agrees with you two. if you look at his career since those movies. But I still love those movies. Again, there's another set of those movies that I grew up watching with my grandparents' house. It was all those VHSs. You've seen that wall of VHSs.
I have.
Yeah, and so that's what I grew up with, and this was among them. And I was, I wasn't as disappointed with the third one like a lot of people were, but those first two are still like the best to me. They're great. They're just awesome. I can't really say much more about it.
If they didn't have Chris Tucker, if they went with literally anyone else, I'd be on board. I would be, you know what? Yeah, let's crush this. Let's crush Hour. But instead, they've
well, in their defense, it was the 90s, and he was a little bit more in the mainstream at that point. He was in Fifth Element either before or after that.
You know what? If they had replaced him with, give me Bernie Mac, okay? That would be the best-selling movie franchise ever. I would have loved that.
The thing with that one, that dynamic wouldn't have worked as well, though, because Bernie Mac's a little bit more of an imposing figure.
That's true, I guess. I just love Bernie Mac.
Like
give
I
me
would
Chris Tucker, or not Chris Tucker. Give me Chris Rock.
Karate on Bernie Mac as it is for him to use it on Chris Tucker's.
Okay, Chris Rock. Give me Chris Rock then. He was huge in the 90s.
Well, yeah. Who was even bigger at the time, which
exactly
probably is why he might not have been in. He might have been making.
I mean, he was
at that time.
Either that, or he was just dreaming big. He was dreaming of being in Lethal Weapon 4.
That's true.
He was like, "Oh no, me and Jet Li are
legit been busy with that movie."
He's like, "Me and Jet Li are gonna add it. We've already got like that dynamic. We can't go do Rush Hour. It's the same thing, different people. We just can't do it."
Yeah. That might have actually been a conversation if I'm remembering the timing lining up correctly for those two. Actually,
probably.
But what's on your guys' list? Since you guys
was that your whole
No,
list?
I have more.
Oh.
I just don't like. I always take
7
all your
movies.
guys's. I always take all your guys's, and then we get back, and I'm like, okay.
Well, how about we do this? We'll go with Craig's.
Yeah.
And then we'll take over because our lists are probably going to be longer than Craig's.
Yeah. Probably.
Well, I imagine this is 35 long, if I'm guessing correctly.
Because the IMDb page is 35
yeah, I know the IMDb
long.
page he's looking at because I looked at it already.
I'm not gonna. No, that's how I decided what movies I was gonna watch in preparation for this.
Yeah, he actually prepared this week.
Oh, that's good because I didn't watch any of these.
For once,
it only took 45 episodes.
Well, because I hadn't seen most of the movies on this list, aside from 21 and 22 Jump Street, which I have written down on my list.
There we go. Boom. He just hit us. He transitioned. He segued right into it. I like it.
Right into the list. Now, they're not at the top of my list because they're just a little bit too ridiculous for me.
Yeah.
I enjoyed them, but they're too...
The premise is like, I get it.
Yeah.
And I know that it was a reboot of a previous TV show.
Yeah.
But it's just the idea of grown men going to high school is just, it's weird.
It is
like
weird.
Maybe back in like the 80s, it was like, it was kosher, you know. People were all dazed and confused, and they're like, "Oh, you know what? It's cool." Like, you know.
Well, no, back in the
Matthew
day,
McConaughey can be 47 and be in high school, but it's cool. But it's just
no. In the original show, though, like Johnny Depp looked like a high school kid. That's what it was. He was just a young-looking face.
That's fair.
Was it Johnny?
But when you throw Channing Tatum and
that's
like,
which in their defense, they do a pretty good job of leaning into it as a joke. Like everyone calls him like, "You look 35, man," and I like that they leaned into it a little bit. Yeah,
like it's just like like 22 makes sense. You know, college you can be any age. That's fine. Whatever.
College, you never get called.
The high school one is just so. Like it's weird. Like
yeah, it's a little.
If I shaved, I could walk in, but they'd be like, "Oh, where did this 12B transfer student come from?" Like, we're 25. Like that would happen to us, you know. Well, me, anyways. If I shaved, you guys would be screwed. You look like adults without the beards.
I got way too many wrinkles.
Yeah, you guys look like adults. You've been hardened by life. Me, I've got that wicked baby face. I've got fantastic skin taken care of. I've got great elastin. In it, so like
I need to
no wrinkles.
More.
No, dude, you just have shit genetics. Like I'm just saying, I've got perfect elastin in my face. When I shave, I look like a youth. They'd be like, "Oh hell yeah, look at this grade 13. Let's throw him in on the football team." I'd be like, "No, bro, no. I've read bad things about knee injuries, and I'd have to play it cool like that and be like, no." I'm getting too old for this, Riggs.
I can't believe how in-depth our conversation just got on something as shallow as the reboot
thing I
of
latched
21
onto
and 22
was-
Jump Street.
Yeah. The thing I latched onto was, though, he's the first person to ever tell me I had bad genetics. I'm just-
I hate to say it, man.
Somebody
I
had
can say
to.
that- I
Somebody
can
had to
say
tell
that-
me it.
I can say that because I have one good thing going for me, genetically speaking, and that is my skin. The hair is a no-go. My size, my girth, it's a no-go. I got terrible sinuses. I got naturally weak ankles.
It's the week we stopped talking about movies and just talked about our own insecurities and
The health
things.
the health that runs in my family isn't so great. Addiction runs on my father's side. It's just a nightmare. Like the one thing I got going for me is my skin. I got bad teeth. That shit just comes. It's bad. It's bad. 25 with nose hair. That shouldn't be happening. Anyways,
Welcome to the first edition of the Diary Cast.
Yeah.
that's
Where the
it.
three guys formerly known as Forgot to Grow Up.
Spin-off.
This is we went from forgot to grow up to officially just being grew up too fast.
Yeah. Yeah.
Life hit us like a brick. Y'all ever wake up and have your hip click for 45 minutes?
Life moves pretty fast. Is
Just like this
is
podcast, jumping from topic to
what-
topic.
is what I heard a guy named Matthew Broderick say one time. Speaking of people with youthful-looking faces, but you know what he wasn't in? He wasn't in
What's that?
The Man.
There
He
you
was
go.
not.
Bringing it back.
Have
Bringing it
either
back.
of you seen that wonderful piece of?
I saw it when it first
American
came out
cinema?
on
Yeah.
VHS.
Same here.
So I remember watching it thinking like, ooh, this is going to be so good. Eugene Levy was still riding that career high.
Yeah.
Like he was still relevant in life. And then Samuel L. Jackson was still like a young, scary dude.
Yeah.
Yep.
So this movie is friggin' weird.
It's ridiculous.
In and of itself, it's fine. Like, it
there's nothing outrageously
premise,
bad about it.
The premise is kind of stupid, and the
Yeah.
characters are kind of stupid, and all in
That's
all,
part
the
of the
whole
buddy
thing is
comedy.
pretty,
So like most mid-budget movies.
Yeah, all in all, the thing is pretty unoffensive. Basically, it.
He's a dental salesman, isn't he? Like he
Yeah.
sells dental tools.
Yeah. About the only
Okay.
ridiculous thing about his storyline is the fact that he goes to this conference and he delivers a speech about selling dental stuff, and the people go nuts. Like he just said a bunch of life-changing stuff. So that part's really, really weird.
Man, you ain't never been to a dental conference.
Obviously
and
not.
Them shit is off the chain nizzle.
Okay, I got a sidebar of this. When the hell did you go to a dental conference?
We're not going to talk about Spring Break 2017.
Some people
It's a
go to
dark
Miami
time.
and party hard. Scott learns more about dental care and thinks about new professions.
Exactly.
All
Well,
I'll say
never
is I
hurts.
was... It doesn't, especially for me. I drink way
especially
too much
when there's
soda.
no pain.
He was trying to get the hookups. I see it. You were
Exactly.
trying to get the equipment for home use, so that way it was a long-term investment. You would have everything now, and you wouldn't have to go pay a dentist to do it. You wouldn't have to go pay someone to say, "Hey, listen, you don't floss enough," and then it'd be like, "Well, actually, I floss twice a day. I just have really very sensitive gums," and you'd be like, "No, you don't," and I'd be like, "No, I have video footage of me doing it twice a day
See, I'll
for the last
snap
6
you.
months."
I knew we'd have this conversation because you never believed me, woman.
You just stabbed me in the gums. You ever stab someone in the heart? That's what it feels like. Anyways,
I don't know where
dental.
we're going today with this stuff.
Let's go back to
Let's
the
go
man.
back to The Man, and let's talk about what I actually think about that movie.
Yeah.
So this film, this lovely piece of mid-range American cinema, featuring one Canadian lead and one American lead, is set in the Motor City of Detroit, which is fine. Interesting.
It looks a lot like somewhere else, though, doesn't
Interesting
it?
choice going to Detroit, but hey, I don't decide where your dental conference is going to be, so you know. But if you're gonna set a movie in Detroit, maybe film part of it in Detroit, so it's at least a tiny bit convincing. Heck, even film it in Windsor.
And just show the Detroit skyline from across the river.
And
Suppose
you know
the
what?
CN Tower.
Even exactly. Half of the movie is there's not even a single river shot in the entire thing. Half the movie,
They don't show it.
there's no
They don't show
river.
the Detroit River.
I'll
my
get
goodness.
there. I'll get there. Trust me. So less than half the movie, you could be like, yeah, this is probably Detroit. I'm not seeing anything that's glaringly obvious. I know it's not filmed there, but I'm pretty convinced so far. And then they're driving along, and in the middle, between Eugene Levy and Samuel L. Jackson, in the back of the car they're driving around in, is a Petro-Canada. Not even just a little bit hidden, but framed between them. Very obviously.
How funny would it be if they sponsored the movie?
And that's when I played that's when I played Spot All of the Toronto Landmarks. Yeah. And so then you're sitting along and you're going, "Yep, that's a red street sign. All right, so we're in Toronto." I'm surprised we didn't see a single cab. But to make it worse, they have this is just my own irritation because it's the first thing that comes to mind. There's one scene where Samuel L. Jackson is taking his car across a street into a basketball court to kind of intimidate one of his sources, and he skips across the street. And there's streetcar tracks down the middle, and there aren't very many streetcars left in North America.
Do you see some beloved TTC that rolls by?
I wish there was a Red Rocket so bad.
Oh my god!
But there wasn't.
That'd be the best.
That would have been
TTC just coming in the background.
That was nothing in comparison to one time where they're clearly out in the Portlands in Toronto, and there's a skyline shot, and you got the TD Tower and the BMO Tower and a bunch of other buildings that are like if you're anywhere near Toronto, you'd know that that's where they were from, and the Gardiner Expressway. So I'll give them a tiny bit of a pass just because I'm familiar with the area. But then they do like a waterfront shot of Lake Ontario, and they've got the Red Path Sugar Factory, and if they'd gone for like a half a second longer, CN Tower, Rogers Center, right there.
I bet you they got that in the original footage, and then they cut
they were
it.
like, we should probably get rid of that.
That's a little too far.
They're probably like, all 42 Canadians who are going to watch this movie are going to see that and recognize it. Nope, we got to snip it.
Yep. So there was just a lot of stuff. It was like, this could probably be Detroit, but it definitely isn't. Definitely isn't.
Now, see, this is getting off topic again, but they do that far too often and stuff, like to the point where it's hilarious.
Oh, it is.
To the point where you're just like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
like at least filming stuff in Vancouver when it's supposed to take place in Seattle, you're like, oh yeah, it rains a lot. Okay,
yeah.
It's very similar. The only difference is the country you're in.
Yeah.
But when you go Toronto to film everything from down in the States,
every like medium-sized city from the States is Toronto.
The fact that they film like a little bit of Gotham City in the GTA, like what?
But they dress it up to not look like Toronto. They
do a really good job.
They'll add stuff in, or it won't be obvious that it's Toronto. Not the man.
Not like Suits, where you have Tim Hortons cup blowing by in the wind and Big Rogers right behind you.
Something that's clearly Canadian, like Rogers or Petro-Canada.
Yeah, it says Canada in it.
Probably the TD, Toronto Dominion, BMO, Bank of Montreal. Like, maybe don't include those. Maybe try to dress it up. Maybe if you're going to do like a shot of a background. Heck, they could have filmed the one shot that they did on the waterfront that I'm talking about with the buildings in the background that have the TD and the BMO. They could have filmed that from friggin' Windsor, and no one would have known the difference.
Yep. Not one person.
Nope.
No one would have been like, that's Windsor, but this is Toronto. They don't add up.
Nope.
No one would have,
except for me.
like maybe one geography mace. Like that would be it.
Would have been
one person who just really knew geography.
Would have been me being dumb about it. But yeah, so I watched The Man and basically got distracted halfway through and started looking for Toronto landmarks instead of watching the movie.
So far, this whole podcast
game you play.
Well, it's entertaining, I guess.
It is. I can imagine. So I do a similar thing with the like different Vancouver shows. I'm like, oh, I recognize that from
because 94% of TV is filmed in Vancouver.
Exactly.
Yeah. All of them.
A different place entirely.
Yeah.
So I watched that.
But outside of Craig taking on The Man, what else did you watch?
Well, it's not even what I watched. It's what's on my list.
Yeah, we're not there yet.
Fair enough. What else do you have on your list?
On my list of buddy cop movies, I really can't decide where I want to put the next two on my list, so I will reference them in order of recency.
subsequent order. Okay.
Yeah, order of recency. Hot Fuzz is another one of the buddy
Okay.
cop movies, not body cup movies.
Number
Not
one's
Body Cup.
on IMDb.
Yeah, number one on the IMDb list. I hadn't seen it. I've been meaning to watch it for weeks. Finally caved in and got around to it, and that is an entertaining movie in the weirdest way possible, which is right up my alley.
Yeah, like when you had told me you hadn't seen it, Craig, I'm like, oh, you're gonna love this
It was
one.
so
strange.
weird, but I loved it. It was.
One's a super intense cop. The other one's like, nah, I'm just a cop.
There's so much stuff in it that, like, you laugh because it's ridiculous.
Oh,
The hopping over the fence thing,
Yeah.
like that's just. I hit that point and I gotta pause it every time
we're
because I
going
piss
through
myself
the back.
laughing.
You've never taken a shortcut before? Goes and hops over, legs going in opposite directions.
Hop,
and he's
hop,
just like
hop.
right through the first fence.
Every time, like I know what's coming and I still laugh.
It is an absolutely ridiculous movie.
oh, it's great.
Oh, it was
That
an
my first.
accident. You mean she accidentally fell on her own gardening shears? Yep,
So much death happens there.
they're all accidents.
All of the death.
Every single one of them's an accident. So that would be. I mean, that's number one on the IMDb list for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
Mostly being hilarious. But the one that doesn't make the IMDb list, but I thought of immediately when I when I thought about buddy cop movies a little bit more in depth, was The Nice Guys. With with Mr.
With-
what's his name?
Russell Crowe.
Russell
and,
Crowe, yeah.
Gosling.
Ryan Gosling.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been meaning to check that out on Netflix. I haven't got to it
You
yet.
should watch that. It's really entertaining. But I like both of them, so that helps me.
It's just I can't do it, man.
But
I can't
he's
do it.
not as bad as you make it out.
It's Ryan Gosling, dude. I just can't do it.
But you gotta.
I just can't do it.
Never watched The Notebook.
I love Sir Crow, but it's Ryan Gosling. I can't do it.
Do it anyway. Trust me.
I'll do it in like 15 years when like he's gotten like 7 more like super bad wrinkles and like people have just let it blow over that he's just a babe. Once he hits that point, then I'll go back and watch it.
But it doesn't help you that it doesn't help you that I am fully in depth on it.
It's
Me, who doesn't care about
it's
any
Ryan
jokes.
It's Ryan Gosling, dude.
Yeah.
I can't do it.
I don't.
It's just him. It's just him.
I like him for him.
He's not the man to me.
He's such a good actor in everything I've seen him in though.
I just can't do it. I can't do it.
All right.
Maybe.
Well, then
maybe.
what's on your list of buddy cop movies, Andrew? Clearly, it's
Was
not
that your
gonna be
whole
The Nice
list?
Guys? Even though you're definitely missing out if you want to see a bunch.
Well, you
got
gotta tell us about it at least. I'm
70s
skipping it,
theme
but tell us about it.
stuff. I don't know. I can't really hear you. Go ahead.
Okay, whatever. I will take over then. So my list, I have first and foremost, I've got Psych. It's not a movie, but there is Psych the movie.
See that
so
occurred,
that
that,
it gets in on
that occurred to me while I was reading the definition.
it gets in on a technicality.
So I'll put that in because Kurt Fuller is awesome. I'll let
Love Psych. Love Psych. So for those of you who haven't seen Psych, get your head out of your ass. Get it out from under that rock and go watch phenomenal comedic television. We all know that I love the movies where they're just, or TV shows where they're just so built around like nostalgia and like 80s movie references. I live for that. So this whole show is built around that. However, it's 2 guys, not cops. They are fake psychic private detectives who work with the police. They goof around. The police are very serious. There's your buddy cop, bashing head aspect. So it gets in on a technicality just because there is Psych the movie.
It has a movie, so it does count. That's not even a technicality. It's a movie.
It's not even that it's them two messing around and the cops being serious. Within Sean and Gus,
That's true.
There's the dichotomy.
I didn't even think of that.
Sean
Yeah.
that's the reason why I considered it a buddy cop.
That's
movie,
true. Because Sean messes around all the time.
Sean is completely ridiculous, and Gus is still a little bit tighter.
He's slightly tightly wound. He's not like Carlton Lassiter,
but he's still he's still pretty pretty tightly.
He can be
wound.
the straight man when he needs to be for like the bounce off of.
Well, yeah, because he will not go into any sort of unreasonable danger, and there are just some times where he draws the line.
Which is probably my favorite thing about his character. I'm just like,
sometimes
I
he
like
gets kind of,
because some of us would draw the line. I'm like, nope, not doing that. Not happening.
Sean, no, But then, sometimes he's super ridiculous. Like the episode where Sean has to be like dead serious when he's the first Yin Yang episode.
Yeah.
When Yang shows up, like that first episode, Sean's gonna be super serious, and then Gus just messes around the whole time. He's like, "Guys, who am I?" And does his Michael Jackson reference, and everyone's like, "Gus, you're an asshole. What are you doing?" And then Sean's like, "You're killing it, man. You're killing it." What? Anyways, you guys hear about Pluto?
It's messed up, right?
That was a joke from Psych. Moving on. Next on my list, I've got the movie Seven.
Okay, yeah. I saw that on the list as well.
Which isn't like total buddy cop. Like, it's not like two totally different types of cop. It's just two different like stage of their career cops.
Yeah.
Like one's the grizzled, like, hardened veteran, and the other one's the people are shit, life sucks, but I'm just starting my career cop. And that is also just one of the best movies ever made. So
yeah, it's a solid quality movie. For me, I don't know why. To me, a buddy cop movie always has to be a little less serious. So that
it's gotta be funny.
A little funny, but not like,
okay.
Like Lethal Weapon isn't necessarily funny, but it has funny moments. Whereas
that's true,
Seven is the most one of the most serious movies I've ever seen in my life. Like,
that's true. See, for me, like my definition of the buddy cop is just two cops that like they look like they shouldn't be like together. They shouldn't be partnered up.
Yeah,
like they don't fit each other's dynamics.
Yeah, no.
And in this movie, they do butt heads like about their
they
styles.
Start the film butting heads.
Yeah. Like that's my definition of it. Although, however, most buddy cop movies do have like a lighter note added into it.
Yeah, just
you're absolutely right.
I just need for me, like I like Seven. And I'm not saying it's not a buddy cop. Just
it's not your buddy cop.
Exactly, that's not my type of buddy cop movie either. Like,
see, I would put Seven on every possible list that I could,
fair.
Just because it's amazing.
It's a good movie.
You got Brad Pitt, who's just an angel. Okay, you got Morgan Freeman.
What's
you got Gwyneth Paltrow, who's just gorgeous. What's in the box? And then you got that other guy we're not going to talk about, who's a great actor, but people. So, moving on. And honestly, I'm not even like that big of a fan of this franchise. It's just I like the dynamics between them, the two of them, and that's the Bad Boys movies.
Yes, I thought that you were going to go that way. Yeah.
Like, I'm not a huge fan of the stories involved with it. I just like the
you put Will Smith with anybody funny, and I'll watch that all day long. And their dynamic is just really well. Like, I believe that they've been friends for as long as they're supposed to have been friends.
Like they seem like it's almost like they joined. They became buddies at like 18, and like 40 years later, they're like, shit, you're still here. God damn it.
I'm sick of your shit, but at the same time,
you come I don't want to
put up with anybody else. Yeah.
That's it. It's too late for me to make friends.
Yeah.
Like, that's it. Craig and I had this conversation at the football game a couple weeks ago. Like, we've put too much time and effort into what we have. We're stuck. I don't want new friends. Like, I've got what I got. It's just forget it. And that's what they're at. Like, and that's definitely what I like about it. It's But then you mentioned you can put Will Smith with anyone, and it's absolutely true. Like him and the Men in Black movies, like it works. Even when you get young Jay and old Jay, like it works on both counts.
Oh yeah, and I love that. Like, I was actually rewatched that not too long ago, and yeah, that dynamic you get between like Will Smith can just do anything really, in my opinion. I love that guy, but when you put him off, like he really bounces well off of almost any kind of style. You can put him against like a straight man. You can put him against another kind of wacky guy, and he finds a way to kind of make it work because he's just a wacky dude. I like wacky.
Yeah,
Fresh Prince.
That's it. So boom, man, I'm crushing my list.
Yeah.
Okay, next up, I got Miss Congeniality.
Oh my, that's great. I didn't even think of that, but that is girl totally, Sandra. How is that not my favorite one? Because I love that movie. I love all those movies.
Yeah, because like the only reason like it needs to be on the list is because it's Sandra Bullock.
Yeah.
But there's other reasons
I never
involved.
saw that when I was younger.
Because it's Sandra. Because she is perfect.
Oh yeah. Well, she was like the draw card to it, and like the one I could believe doing it too at the time. Like when the movie came out. Like, she was that, you know, the beautiful actress who you could also see being a badass too, right? Like I could see
like
her having both sides to it.
I feel like she's just as a person. If you walked up to her at a bar and you started hitting her on her right away, or like you like tried to touch her hand, like look at you, gorgeous, she would just grab your finger and like do that like crazy twist. You're like,
that like
she's gonna snap it. And she's like,
yeah,
and she's like, listen, you're gonna walk away now, or I'm gonna break your finger off. And you, okay,
I'm sorry. Your hair's really nice.
That's it. You smell delicious. You smell like bubble gums and raspberries. So like, and just I love her. But this movie, like, it's, you know, she's the you know, the hardened cop who has to dumb it down.
Yeah.
Like, she's going to dumb it down. And then you've got her work, even just, not even with, like, the people she's working with at the pageant, just, like, her handler.
Yeah.
Within the bureau, who's, like, he's kind of like that, listen, you got to mellow out a little bit. Like, they're you know, he doesn't quite see, like, why she's so intense, but then they both bend a little bit and meet in the middle.
Yeah, which happens in most buddy cops. But.
Exactly. Like, you learn, like, oh, man, I'm an asshole. You're a different type of asshole. Let's just be, like, each other's butt cheeks. Let's just meet in the middle.
Never heard it described that way. But yeah,
it's not a bad analogy, though, is it not?
Like, that's a couple butt cheeks, couple
That's
asshole.
it. We're assholes. Let's be the butt cheeks. Okay, let's just seal it. Let's cover up the assholeness. Let's just be... So next up on my list, and this is another goofy one. It's Central Intelligence.
Oh, nice. Okay, yeah, yeah.
Because you've got The Rock, who's like, you know, his character's kind of like that pushover, but he's also just an unbelievable, you know, law enforcement officer.
Oh,
yeah.
Well,
specimen. Yeah. He's just amazing at everything, yeah. And then you got Kevin Hart, and, you know, they're totally they're not even just that they don't see eye to eye, they're just two different people.
They're very literally,
yeah, like they don't fit the mold.
Yeah, it's very much like twins.
That's it.
When you get that opposites, yeah. I cannot remember a whole lot of Central Intelligence, to be honest. That's
it wasn't a phenomenal movie, but I do remember enjoying it while I watched it.
I can never remember if I've seen it, so I never watch it. Does that make sense?
That's fair. That's fair. Craig, have you ever seen it?
No.
I don't know why I'm surprised by that. It seemed like something you might have watched on Netflix at some point, just because.
I used to think I was the guy that hasn't seen anything, but today I met someone who has seen less movies than me. So I don't even feel bad about the movies I haven't seen anymore.
And you didn't invite them to be a guest on our podcast?
No, because it's frustrating to talk to the guy.
That's fair.
Because every time you make a movie reference, it's like, what? Yeah.
I can't imagine. Like, I feel like I would just lose my shit. Like, I'd be so disappointed in everything.
Today he asked who John Hughes was.
Excuse me? And you immediately, like, just threw on fantastic 80s movies outside of The Breakfast Club. You're fired.
I don't have the authority to do that, but you're fired.
Did you burn him? Did you light him on fire with a specific number of candles?
I feel like that would be a problem. He's never seen 16 candles.
He wouldn't understand the reference.
I literally was confused where you're going with the lighter at first, and then it got to the candle bit. I'm like, oh, there it is. Okay.
There we go.
A specific number of candles is what really did it.
That would be a pretty sweet way to be a serial killer, though. Sidebar, like, just kill someone using, like, the titles to John Hughes movies.
Man, you say that, and I'm like, I feel like that was an episode of CSI. That show's been on for 17 years.
Probably.
They have had to do everything at this point. I'm sure we've both been murderers on that show. We just don't know it.
We just don't. Oh man, that would be awesome.
That would be actually really cool. Might have to start watching it again to see if we were.
Yeah, just to see if us walking through the background.
Did they write a Scott Carter in this and I never knew?
Gasp. That time I got questioned by the police, was it on TV and not in real life? But anyways, yeah. So moving on from Central Intelligence, I've got Sherlock Holmes.
Okay, I wasn't sure if we'd classify this as a buddy cop or not.
Interesting. I like that you're pulling all these weird ones that aren't necessarily the stereotypical buddy cop.
The straightforward ones, yeah.
Like, for Sherlock Holmes, like I've always liked Sherlock Holmes. Like,
I loved Sherlock Holmes.
Like the thing that got me onto it was the TV show Wishbone that was on when we were a kid, where they had the little terrier who did a lot of Sherlock Holmes like stories, and I loved it. So that kind of got me interested in it. So reading about it, and then when these movies came out, first of all, Jude Law is a phenomenal actor, and then you got Robert Downey Jr. I'm drawing a blank on who the woman was. I feel like I'm gonna kick myself.
It's Rachel
McAdams. That's who it was. I knew it was a Canadian.
Yeah.
But like just those movies are just phenomenal.
Oh, I love both of them.
And I just like that, and not even just the movies. Like in the books, like you get the idea. You know, Watson is he understands the methodology behind. You know, Sherlock's the way he solves stuff.
Yeah. But
at the same time, he's like, there's got to be a better way.
Yeah.
Like, so he does question everything. And he's just he strikes me as the Gus character on Psych, right? Like he's along for the ride. You know, he just happens to be there. Especially in these movies where he's like, dude, I'm getting married, you know, I need you to be there.
He's really trying to have his own life.
That's it. He's trying to do his stuff, and then Robert Downey Jr. is like, no, it's cool. I'm just gonna pretend to hang myself in here, and you just
passive aggressively try to break you and your fiance up.
That's it. just to test her. And just like he's into such weird shit that like I feel like that's what kind of sells it for me.
Oh, definitely. That's what I love about that. Like a particular like Robert Downey Jr.'s portrayal of it. Just like that kind of like strange and kind of eccentric. Is that the word?
Eccentric.
Thank you.
Close this time, Scott.
So close.
Eccentric, like kind of personality, and I just really kind of connect to that because I'm like, yeah, you would be a little kooky if nobody else understood you in the world. I get that.
He named his kid Exton, for God's sakes. Like, he's a strange dude, but no, it's like the whole movie is both of them. It's just Jude Law being just so done with his shit. And I'm pretty sure at some point he does tell him, like, listen, no, I can't do this anymore. I'm done.
Oh, yeah.
And he's still there because he's his partner.
Oh, yeah.
And Sherlock's just a weird dude who has to do his thing. And then you throw Mark Strong in there, and y'all know I have a man crush on Mark Strong, okay? That dude, even as Lord Blackwood, like, he can do no wrong.
Even as the villain, yeah.
Yeah, to me, I'm like, no, he's justified. He's the Thanos of this universe. He can do whatever he wants, okay? He needs to do it. It's for better of all of us. Just believe
in magic. That's what he was going for. That's what he was trying to make people believe.
Like when they hang him and then he's still alive and you're like, oh damn, and then Sherlock solves it all and you're like, oh shit, and then Jude Law's like, I'm just Jude Law. I'm in a lot of stuff. I'm worth a lot more money than you can imagine. I am in everything.
But he's kind of the muscle in the movies too, a little bit. Like, not that like.
I think it's funny because he's got the limp, and yet he beats people's ass with the cane.
So
it's like, like it's no big deal.
I love when somebody with a cane just kicks some ass, cause it's
like Yoda.
Exactly, like Yoda or old Batman.
Yep.
Old Batman beyond Batman.
Yep. But no, it's just one of those things where you're like, you know what? It's phenomenal. Both of the movies.
Definitely.
Especially because like they're both smart, but like Watson like. Compared to anyone else is going to be this like genius level intellect.
Yeah.
It's just that Sherlock is like, nah, dude, I'm like hyper autism intelligence where I see everything in like this whole new parallel universe reality. Like he's like, it just like it's like taking The Accountant, but then like sticking it back in old London. That's what it's like.
I haven't seen The Accountant, but yeah, I like this was, I think it's Guy Ritchie is the director.
I think so. That sounds familiar.
I think it's him. I wasn't sure if it was the other one. Anyways, yeah, I'm pretty sure it's Guy Ritchie's the director, and you can kind of, if I'm getting the right guy's name right, you can really tell his style fits really well. I think with this, like with the old London look, because it's
he has a gritty, like a more nitty gritty kind of
exactly, which I thought fit really well with like. The story they were telling, it made me kind of like Victorian London was a little. Well, I guess that wouldn't be Victorian London. Industrial.
Yeah.
Post-industrial revolution London.
Yeah.
Yeah. That
smog-filled London.
Smog-filled London. Chimney sweep London.
Exactly.
Mary Poppins London.
That would be an amazing crossover.
That
Even if it was just like an animated short. Mary Poppins meets Sherlock
Mary Poppins
Holmes.
one I want.
Do
Yeah.
not,
And you-
do not make it because you can't put Dick Van Dyke in it.
Don't you say those things.
Yeah.
Don't you say those things
There
unless
is
they're
no
true.
such thing as another Mary Poppins movie, and I defy anyone to tell me otherwise.
Okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to leave Dick Van Dyke out of it entirely. Okay, we're not even going to have like...
Wait,
any
wait,
You
character
can't have any
associated
chimney
with him.
sweeps.
What if we pull a Grand Moff Tarkin and just bring him back from the dead?
Maybe,
But
just
he's
have him
still
walk by
alive.
in the background. Here's the
Oh, is
scene
he
we're going to
still
have.
alive?
He is still alive.
My mistake. I thought he had passed away. That's my
No,
mistake.
you just can't put him in it
Here's-
because he can't do the same thing he used to. That's my part. That's my point.
Here's the scene we're going to do,
I thought when
okay?
you said that he was passed away.
Nope.
It's my mistake.
We're going to have a Sherlock Holmes and Mary Poppins, okay?
Yep.
We're no sidekicks, no Watson, no nothing.
Yeah, because the
just
children
two
were
of
all
them.
murdered.
Yes. Whoa. Okay.
all right.
I signed off.
going
I signed off
R-rated
too early
Disney.
on that one. Damn. So they signed off together, and we're gonna have a bickering scene where she's like, a spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down, and then Sherlock's gonna be like, well, don't drink the medicine, just take tea or something, and have like some super weird remedy to solve it, and then they're gonna be bickering, and then they're gonna go solve the children's murders, I guess, because I signed off on this.
No, they're,
And then
they're kidnapped.
in the
They're just
background,
kidnapped. They're kidnapped.
Okay. In the background, Dick Van Dyke's just going to be like at the zoo with the penguins. And it's going to fill all our hearts with tears of joy. And then we're going to go on and we're just going to watch the rest of the movie and be happy.
Yeah, we just got a little flash. But they didn't talk, Mary Poppins and him, because they had a bad breakup. We don't like to
Ooh.
talk about that.
There we go.
We'll explore that in the animated shorts in between. Oh.
In the comic series.
That's
So
actually a
move-
really good idea. We'd probably make a okay amount of money for a comic book.
Probably.
I would be okay with
Moving
that.
on to the next movie on my list, because Sherlock Holmes got a lot more attention than I
Yeah.
thought we were going to give it.
Well, because it's I mean, it makes sense, but it's also not
Oh.
a typical. But your list has been like that, where it's not typical buddy cop films.
I like to be different, okay?
Clearly, Andrew. Clearly.
Next up, I've got Starsky and Hutch.
Yes.
I've
I
never
love
seen
that
that,
one.
so I can't comment.
And it's another one of those Owen Wilson, Ben Stiller movies.
And I'm not a big Ben Stiller guy. Like, I hate him in, like, Meet the Parents and those ones.
Really? See, I
I hate
enjoyed
those
those
movies
movies.
so
Careful what
much.
you
But I
say
think
about
it-
Ben Stiller.
See, I'm on Craig's side on this. I understand your opinion, though, Scott. Like, he can be a little overwhelming.
Yeah, and it's when he's that kind of, like, sometimes I like...
Self-assured. That's what he is.
Yeah.
He's a little too self-assured.
And when he's paired with, like, a pretty boy, I find it tends to be a good thing. Like, it tends to balance out pretty well. So, like, in this one, he's
Okay.
paired up with, Owen Wilson,
Wait,
who's
so
kind of a pretty boy.
so
Hollywood
does this
pretty
mean you
good.
don't like the Night at the Museums movie?
Those ones are okay.
Okay.
I've only seen, like, one of them, to be honest.
Okay.
Or the second one, too. I've never seen the third one. I can't speak to that.
Man, I thought for sure I was about to have to quit this podcast. I can't be friends with people who don't like Night at the Museum.
That one, he
Can't do it.
wasn't really Ben Stiller at all. Like, now he's not as bad as he was, like... I think it's mainly just Meet the Parents I hate him in, to be honest. Those movies, it's those ones in particular.
It's probably the same reason I've become less of a fan of Adam Sandler.
I can see that,
Once they start producing and writing and directing their own stuff, I feel like it gets watered down because no one's there to check them and be like, listen, buddy,
Yeah.
no one's gonna like this.
Yeah, no, like, exactly. I'd agree with that, yeah.
Why are you making a movie where you play both the brother and the sister? Why is Jack and Jill happening?
Because that's how
Yeah.
you know
Why is this a
that
thing?
a movie has jumped the shark. Or
That's
an
fair.
actor has
Well-
jumped the shark.
Well, the shark should bite him when he jumps over. But so Starsky and Hutch, I
Yes.
like it because obviously one of them is like the by the books. I'm a cop. This is who I was meant to be. And then the other one, you get Owen Wilson's
Yeah.
character is
I
like,
was gonna
corrupt.
say, like, you didn't have to tell me which one was which. I could have
you
guessed
just
it,
knew.
having
Yeah.
never seen the
Yeah.
film.
and it takes place in the 70s. It's a great movie. It's so dumb, but
Got
it's great.
Snoop Dogg.
Yeah, it does as a pimp, which is not unexpected.
No, he's legit. That's what he
Yeah,
does.
he's a pimp informant. He's a pimp foreman. But I don't have much to say about that movie. It's been a long time since I've seen it, but I did thoroughly enjoy it.
I watched it,
and it is a buddy
in high
cop
school,
movie.
I remember because my brother had it on DVD. He still
We
probably
actually
does.
watched it in English class once, or writer's craft.
Yeah,
And by we watched it, I meant I watched it with headphones with the subtitles on, so you guys behind me could watch it.
and that's how we got through 12B.
Yeah. Next up, I've got the Naked Gun franchise.
Okay. I
Which-
thought about it, but how the hell is that a buddy cop movie?
Who's the buddy in it?
Yeah.
I've never seen them, so I don't know.
Make your
The
case.
first one, oh man, I want to say Ed, but I guess it doesn't work because he does work alone for the most part.
It's ridiculous.
Damn
and
it.
I love those movies, and I love that you brought
Such
them
a
up.
bummer.
But I don't know how they fit.
Nordberg. I'm just gonna give it to Nordberg, whether it counts or not. He's the opposite. I mean, he spends most of the first one like dead, but whatever.
Yeah, I've never seen them.
You've never seen Enrico Palazzo?
You've never. Okay, so hang on a second, Scott. Hang on a
Yeah.
second. You've
Yeah.
never seen The Naked Gun. I don't even care about the sequels.
I'm
Craig,
fairly...
didn't you just see it for the first time like 2 years
That
ago?
doesn't matter. I've seen
In
it.
my basement. You were sitting right there. You see that spot on the couch right there, guys? Right on the corner? That's where Craig sat.
And
I have a picture.
But at least I've seen it.
That's true. That's true.
I don't think I've seen it. Like
What?
from my
Yes.
memory, I can't. Like I could
That's-
remember things that could equate to the trailer, but it's possible I saw it when I was a lot younger. But
Those are the movies that got me hooked on Leslie Nielsen.
Airplane.
Yeah.
I saw
always does that for me.
those movies before I ever saw Airplane.
and I think I saw Airplane first.
Surely it can't be serious.
I am serious, and don't call me Shirley. Scott, I was waiting for you, buddy.
Yeah, I pitched it.
I blanked, and I was
Oh my
also trying to
God.
think of what the other one was. What's the other quote?
Well, there's.
I wasn't trying to
lots.
respond with the same one. Yeah, I know. I'm blanking on what one I was going for was.
Nervous?
Yeah.
Yes. First time? No, I've been nervous lots of times.
Fantastic. Well, Leslie Nielsen's
Or-
just the best. And that is why he deserves to be on my list of buddy cop movies, because he's a buddy and he was a cop. Do you deny this?
He didn't have a buddy.
I
though,
don't
from
think
what
it
I'm
fits.
understanding.
He had-
I don't think it fits the definition or the genre, but I'm never going to critique a chance to bring up.
Talk about Leslie
yeah,
Nielsen?
exactly.
Because it's just so good. It's like the beginning of super corny Americanized comedy.
It's almost it's basically almost a really like anything that he's in, and anything related to Airplane or The Naked Gun is basically as close as you're going to get to a Monty Python sketch as American comedy.
Yeah, pretty much. Like even just the scene where he's in the office with what's his face, the guy who plays Khan. Drawing a blank on his name as an actor. Anyway, and he just sticks his hand in the the fish tank to get the pen out, and he ends up killing the fish, and he's like, ugh, and the whole scene is just him freaking out with the water when the guy's behind him, which is a scene in Family Guy, because that movie gets ripped off all the time in Family Guy.
Obviously,
Like it just
This explains
Or
the
it-
connection a little bit more to me.
the intro segment to it is just phenomenal. All of them, like all three of them, are amazing. Like it's so good.
Isn't one
So
of them called
good.
like 21 or something like that?
No, there's Naked Gun. It's Naked Gun 2.5.
Okay.
And Naked Gun 3 3/4.
That's okay. So that's what I was
And
thinking. of. I
each
was like,
each
that's-
movie, it's him riding in on like a bullet. Like not even just the shell. I think I'm pretty sure it's the full bullet that he's riding in on the
Yeah.
cover. And then each time they get like smaller bullets to get like the decimal point. Like it's just they're so good. Like the third one is he goes undercover in jail. Like I'm pretty sure he's retired, and then gets like roped in, and him and his wife. I want to say it's Jane. I can't remember.
Well,
her
you
name.
know, I'm a sucker for someone who is retired and comes back to the game. Why didn't you lead with that?
He's retired, and he gets roped in to go undercover in prison because everyone's gonna know like all the current cops, and they can't trust any of them. So he goes in undercover in prison with this guy, befriends him, and I want to say it's. Who is that model who died a couple years ago? Something Smith. Oh, it's gonna drive me crazy. I want to say it's her. She's a Playboy actress. I think she drowned. It's gonna bug the shit out of me, but I'm pretty sure she's the actress in it who plays like the convict's girlfriend. And you see the whole movie, like the convict he befriends. His mother's absolutely batshit crazy. Like she's just psycho and wants to blow everything up, and she doesn't trust him at all. But then his girlfriend's like trying to hit on him, and at the end, like they almost hook up, but it turns out she's a hermaphrodite, and she's got just a dick that just pops up, and just the way it happens is hilarious, and it's just the whole movie's crazy. And then Leslie Nielsen is like, oh, I don't know what to do, and he throws up in a tuba. Like it's great.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about it now, but
watch it. I did not. I have undersold it. It is an amazing movie.
Fantastic.
You picked some very out of context things to mention.
Well, the problem is, Scott, that anything Leslie Nielsen is in is entirely out of context at all times.
Okay.
Yeah,
in the first Naked Gun movie, I'm going to say this and then I'm going to move on from it. In the first Naked Gun movie, you get him and you get I think it's his captain, Ed, who are sitting there in a car talking about life's issues, talking about the case, just eating pistachios. The fingers are all pink, their faces are all pink. And then they go to get out of the car, and they can't because there's so many pistachios. There is 4 feet of pistachios stacked up outside the door, and they gotta push the door open, and then they like fall through it. Like it's just some of these scenes they're so ridiculous. Like where would you get 8 feet of pistachios to fit in the back seat of this car?
On set, or do you just buy shelled ones already?
Like it's just one of those things. You're like, okay, they've been undercover, and they don't even care. They're covered in pink. You've got the two tech boys in the lab who make all like the undercover stuff, like the knockout dart cufflinks that he shoots Ed with. He's like, why? And he passes out. This is my favorite joke from the whole movie. I'm going to say, and then I'm going to move on. I promise this time. I lied. There's two jokes I'm going to say. One of them is he's talking to the beautiful woman he ends up falling in love with, who's up on top of a ladder, and she's doing some stuff up there, and they're making like very sexually suggestive jokes. And he's like, oh, looking up, he's like, oh, nice beaver. She's like, oh, thanks. I just had it stuffed. And then she hands down a taxidermied beaver.
Yeah, I think I've seen this scene. I'm like seen it before, to be honest.
25 years old. I've watched this movie for the past 2 decades. I still laugh every time because it's so funny. Okay. The other joke I'm going to say, and this one it's not even on the same level. It's just I personally enjoy it. You cut back to the with the tech boys, and there's a guy who's like 7'9", just a huge dude, and he's sitting there eating a banana, and he takes a bite of the banana, and then Leslie Nielsen's character's like, oh, you have something in your mouth, and he's like, did I get it? He's like, no, it's still there, and he pops the banana out of his mouth. He's like, oh, you got it. Like it's just so stupid. The whole movie is just ridiculous. And I think you would really like it, Scott. I think you would love those movies.
Probably. If they're on Netflix, I'll get to them.
Next up, and this is another ridiculous kind of buddy cop movie, and it's not the whole franchise because at some point it does change. But I'm gonna say The Shot in the Dark and the first Pink Panther movies, just because you get Peter Sellers as Clouseau, butting heads with his captain. Or the Commissioner Dreyfus. That's the only reason it made it onto this list for me, is because they are 2 totally different types of cops who don't see eye to eye, and they do have to work together. Except at the end, they never see eye to eye. He just keeps pushing him further and further into insanity. But this one makes the list for me because they don't see eye to eye. And I love those movies as well. And I'm going to move on to the next one because I can talk about this movie for days. Next up, I've got The Last Action Hero.
Okay.
I don't know what.
I was curious how that one maybe like it does, but at the same time,
I think it's just like this one. I did pull off a list.
Yeah, no, I saw. That's what I was thinking. I'm like, I saw this on a list, and I love that
like
movie.
the only reason I can give it to them is because they're totally different age groups.
Yeah,
like that's the only reason it could work for me.
But at the same time, I'm like, it's a kid. Like I always feel like whenever it's a kid and a cop, it's like, is that really a buddy cop?
You just hate kids in movies.
It's true.
You just hate kids, Scott.
It's true as well. They're just so small and annoying.
Okay, I've got 2 more things on my list.
Yeah.
I'm going to toss them out, and we're going to end this and move on to the rest of your list. I've got R.I.P.D.
Interesting.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
I can see that.
Well, just because
it falls into it.
Jeff Bridges, Ryan Reynolds, totally different styles of cop being in your rest in peace department.
Yeah, no, that's my favorite part about it. I like when it's these weird ones like Men in Black and this. It's just like,
just
give me a twist
they're forced
on
to be together.
And they're on
that
like
and,
different. Yeah, it's not just normal criminals. It's this weird element. So that's the part I like about it. Yeah.
Mary Louise Parker can do no wrong in my books, so she sells it for me no matter what.
Yep.
Love her. Last on my list is Zoolander. And Zoolander 2. Because they hate each other at the beginning of it. In both movies. And they got to do some undercover police work.
Yeah, I guess they do some police work. Yep.
Even though they're
if you don't accept if you don't accept the first one, at the second one they're working with
I'll give
with
it to
a
you
police
for both
foundation.
Of them, the first one is like more about the investigate. Like they spend more time on him investigating the stuff than they do.
But they're really
him being a model.
Similar.
But they're
that's
really ridiculously good looking.
They're really similar in terms of personality and that, so it makes it a little bit hard. Like, yes, they work together, but I don't know.
But at the same time, but
they butt heads.
Yeah, they're
that's
the different.
Like, they
just because
they
they work in the same thing,
yeah,
doesn't mean they're exactly the same. Just because they're both airheads doesn't mean they're completely alike.
And it's both movies. They start off hating each other. That's the thing. And then they get back together.
I gotta rewatch that second one. See, like I like Ben Stiller in that one, but I swear.
Well, that's just because the Zoolander movies are some of the best movies ever made.
I think it's literally just him and Meet the Parents and when he was on Friends.
That's true.
As Chandler's roommate.
Yeah.
That guy was crazy.
Crazy! Speaking of crazy, we've talked about this for a crazy long time.
Yes.
What else is on your list, Scott?
My
let's
list
bring it
was
home.
mostly done. We've got to all but one, actually.
Okay.
Which was one I didn't even think of technically as a buddy cop one, because it's the only one in the franchise that's a buddy cop, and it's a slight stretch, but it's Die Hard 3. You got Bruce Willis and Samuel L. Jackson running around New York trying not to get blown up.
That's fair. That's fair, yeah.
Yeah, I saw this on the list. I'm like, yeah, check. Like, for you guys with Leslie Nielsen, that's me with Die Hard. Just stick it on any list. Like, it's a Christmas movie.
I accept it.
Yeah,
I accept it.
But I particularly like the third one because I did like that change up of the dynamic when in the third Die Hard when they did bring Samuel L. Jackson in to have Bruce Willis kind of bouncing off of, and they are very much opposites. Even though Samuel Jackson isn't a law enforcement officer, but I still feel it works in the same way that The Man worked actually, just opposite roles. Yeah. Well,
I totally accept it.
Yeah,
I accept it.
But yeah, I don't have much else to say other than it's good. I need to rewatch that one. I think Die Hard 3 speaks for itself, really, though. Shall we talk about what we watched this week, then?
Yeah,
absolutely.
Talk about what we watched this week. Who wants to
I
go
have
first?
I have a very long list. Do you guys want me to just bust mine out, or do you want me to save it for last?
Bust that list.
Let's see if I can Barney Stinson crush the history of my WWWTW watched in 1 minute. Okay.
All right.
Okay, I'm going to try to finish this by 1:07 and a half. Hold up. Okay, so this week I watched Parks and Rec. I watched about 5 seasons of it, and that show I did not think I was going to like it as much as I did, but I love that shit. Okay, Ron Swanson is my spirit animal. It does.
Yep.
It's
is it on
unbelievable.
Prime or is it on Netflix?
It's on Prime.
Prime, okay.
It's on Prime. So moving on, I watched Arrow season 6. I've watched the first disc, which is about 6 episodes. I had only seen 4 episodes prior, so I've really only seen 2 episodes, and I loved it. Okay. I watched The Death of Superman today, which came out today, but I got it. Or it came out last week. Yeah. Watched it today. Amazing. Absolutely loved it. I watched Infinity War because it came out on Tuesday. Love that shit. I'm kind of disappointed with Marvel now that I've seen it again, but we'll talk about that later. I watched Justice League again because I was pumped about superhero stuff. I watched 3 episodes of Psych. Love that show. I watched The Naked Gun. I watched 7. Watched Inferno, and that movie disappoints me more now than I saw it before. This Is Where I Leave You. Also watched that. The Day After Tomorrow was on TV. Watched Christopher Robin, and I watched 1 episode of the new Insatiable TV show on Netflix.
And how awful was that?
I can't talk about it because I did my minute recap right on the minute.
Talk about it.
Can't talk about it.
You have to tell me how
it
Insatiable
was awful
is because it keeps coming up.
I don't
think I like it.
It's god awful. Okay, and I have a little bit of a tangent about this.
Okay, hit me with it.
I feel like Netflix and all streaming sites on TV. And I can't knock them too much for it because it really was genius, where they charge so little money for one thing, and it really was just Netflix for the longest time as your go-to streamer. It just made sense to say, nuts to it. I'm not going to watch cable anymore. Why would I pay for cable? I'm paying for internet. Let's pay our $10 a month and watch whatever Netflix gives me. And let's just save a couple bucks. So they've gone that route. But now there's so many other streaming services available that it's costing more money to have all these different streaming services than you could get basic cable for. So they've flipped the coin, but now that everyone's already paying for these, no one wants to cancel them. And they've gone like an Oprah route, where it's just, hold up, time out. Excuse me. Oh, it snuck up on me. Anyways, excuse me. Yeah. So they've gone this Oprah route of like, everybody gets a show. You get a show. And you get a show. And you get a show. What is the weirdest idea you can come up with? Cool. 12 episodes.
Humpback whales, obviously.
And they just... Exactly. Humpback whales in schools. Okay. Horses in hospitals. Humpback whales in schools.
Not ponds.
And it's just... Exactly. They've got to this good aquamarine life joke. I like it.
Nailing it with the biology jokes over here.
I like it. So, it's just... It's so bad, Craig. Like, it is just awful.
Well, then I'm glad I haven't been caved to it yet. Because I watched the trailer and, I was like, maybe? But no. Okay.
It's fucking terrible. And I don't think I've used that word at all this episode, which is weird. It is fucking terrible.
If we're not careful, we're going to lose our explicit tag, okay? Let's...
Got to pump it up a little bit.
Pump it up a little, otherwise...
And I said swear a few times.
What are you guys doing over there?
Trying to be family friendly.
Try to use that mother red E. It's what it's.
Get the fuck out of here. What's the Boyle quote from the Die Hard episode? Other buckets.
Yippee kayak, other buckets.
Yippee kayak. That's what it was.
I'm pretty sure that's it. You know it's not.
Yippee kayak, motherfucker. Anyways, so no, it's so bad. Like it just, I don't know. Glow. I stopped watching that because it got a little too weird for me, and I really, honestly, I think the only reason I watched it was because I was like, Alison Brie tits? What? Yes, and I admit to it because I love Alison Brie, and it started off okay, and I love Mark Maron. He's hilarious, but it hit a stagnant point for me, and I think that's just what's happening with a lot of
there's way too much, and they're trying
Netflix,
to get to it all way too quickly.
Yeah, and there's too much, and they're taking down too many things that too fast. Like they'll throw a movie on and have it there for 6 months, so you'll stick it in your list and you're like, okay, but then they'll give you all their new content, and it really does make sense where they're trying to purge the not Netflix content to give you exclusive Netflix content once they get enough of it. It does make sense from a business standpoint, but just as a personal consumer standpoint,
it's losing its appeal on that front.
The reason I got into Netflix was because it had an abundance of just random stuff from every corner of the universe type thing.
I used to be able to watch every season of Top Gear, and then they cut it down to less and less, and now there's 3 seasons left. And
why would I want to start watching a show on season 9?
Yeah, that's
why.
Oh my god, they've added a few things like that. I'm like, this is no, just don't bother. Or like when they only have the sequel to a movie on, I'm like, or like the third in a movie in there. I'm like, what's the point of this?
Why don't you have the Da Vinci Code, but you have angels and demons? Why don't you have the original, but you go with the prequel?
Yeah.
What?
Why? Yeah.
Why? Why does SpongeBob SquarePants start at season like 11?
I didn't even know that was
why.
on there.
It used to be.
I was gonna say.
Why does Family Guy start on season 9?
Yeah.
Like, why would you? Why? What's the point? Take the whole thing down.
Don't.
And
like, if you're.
And in Netflix's defense, I get like they didn't want necessarily this to be their route. It was kind of everyone else kind of forced them to go this route, like charging them more for the different things, and more of these places trying to start their own. So it became more competitive in that nature. So it was cheaper for them to make their own. But at the same time, it's like, just be better at business then. Go make some deals with some of these movie studios a little bit more.
Stop trying to make $1 billion, okay? Settle for $100 million. Like that's just my look at. I'm a little bit too much of a socialist that way. Like, why do a few people have to have it all? Why can't we all have a little bit? Why can't I pay $10 a month and you just give me everything?
Yeah.
Why does it have to be, well, you're going to pay $11 a month and we're going to take away stuff? Like,
yeah. No,
why?
I know what you mean. Yeah, I agree.
Like,
it's annoying.
But that's just my socialist views on business.
Yeah. I think in the next, I would say give it another 5 to 10, which sucks. That's going to probably take that long. But 5 to 10... I think we'll lose out on a couple of these ones. Like, I don't know how long Amazon's going to stick around with it, because that's a hard one to tell. Because I'm like,
I think Amazon's actually, like, just looking at it, I think it's going to be the, like, for lack of a better term, it's going to be the prime go-to.
Yeah, no, I was slightly worried about that too, because they have the money to stick it out longer than anybody else.
That's it. Like, Amazon is like the #1 business in the world right now, and it's only getting bigger.
Oh yeah, and they have more offerings in the U.S. than even in Canada for like TV shows and stuff and movies.
Like they've got Disney money. Like where Disney they don't care about what they make because they've already got something that's going to subsidize it down the road.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Like if they make a flop, who cares? Because Star Wars is going to cover that, or they've made so much money off Marvel, like it's not cutting into their personal bottom line.
Yeah, it's not cutting into
whereas Netflix, if they say, okay, well, here's $1 billion, let's make 100 different shows.
See, the thing with that too is like, well, there's no real number. Like maybe there is some kind of math that we're not knowing about that. Like, oh, the more they spend, somehow that equates to a certain number of new signups. Because that's the only way they make more money. Like they're not making more from me and you anymore. They're getting the exact same.
They've
from
got
us
our
every
money.
month. Exactly, right? And like they can't rely off of increasing the price too much. Like they've done it once, I think, since I've had it, maybe twice. And that was
and it's only gone up like $1 a year.
Yeah, which is not that bad. So it's like, I think eventually something's going to lose out on this. It's hard to say though, because in Canada we only have 3 options anyways. So it's like
Prime, Netflix, and Crave.
Exactly, and like I almost feel like we might just be stuck with those ones for the longest time, probably, because I don't know if we'll ever get the DC one. Well, hopefully we'll get the DC one and the Disney.
If we don't, I will riot. Okay.
Oh, I'm so close to already rioting, but
I will burn the border with 16 candles. I will do it.
And we've come full circle.
There we go.
Yeah.
But the only other thing I want to mention, because Insatiable was garbage, was the Christopher Robin movie I went to see.
Yeah.
Ewan McGregor, love that dude. Another guy who can do no wrong in my books.
Yes.
It's a super cute family movie. However, it hits you in the feels. It hits you right in the feels. Although I will say this, I do not like that Brad Garrett is the voice of Eeyore. Don't like it. It just doesn't feel right.
Is that
the brother from Everybody Loves
Raymond?
I thought
so. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
It doesn't feel right. I would have rather had Patrick Warburton, for God's sakes. Like
that's immediately who I would have thought of, but
like
yeah, but I could see why they thought it was like that one would fit. Does that make sense? Like I get why they think it would work, but at the same time, it's like
well, it's because he's got a super deep, mopey voice back in the '90s. But now he just sounds like an old dude who's just Brad Garrett.
Yeah, he's been around too long now, and he's
like Patrick Warburton. At least like when he makes sarcastic, depressing jokes, like immediately for me, anyways, I'm just gonna relate it to seeing Joe Swanson be super depressing. on Family Guy, and it's gonna hit me. And considering this movie is made for nostalgia purposes, it's made to get the money of people who watched Winnie the Pooh as children 20, 30, 40 years ago. Like this, it seems like, you know, they should have gone with a nostalgic route. And like, I don't know if it's the same voice actor. I think it is, because Winnie the Pooh and Tigger sound exactly the same. You'd think they could have gone that route with Eeyore, or got someone to at least sound similar. But I digress.
Yes.
What did you guys watch this week?
Craig, did you want to go first?
I can take it away. So this
Go
week,
ahead.
Take it away now.
I watched more Archer, obviously.
Obviously.
I tried to watch Dimitri Martin's new special. I like him generally. This one, however, is less awesome. He took a weird route with it. His stand-up comedy is really good usually, but it's because it is a continual flow, and he goes through. He doesn't do bits necessarily so much as one-liners, or at least he never did.
Yeah.
And so, but it's always just one after the other, and that's what kind of keeps you entertained, because it's just like as soon as you're done recovering from the first one, you get to the next one, and by that time you're already building on top of the laugh, so eventually you're just going to keep laughing the entire time. But with this one, he does this whole like in his head commentary throughout the thing, so if he's not talking on stage, he's talking over it, and then there'll be parts where the show just breaks and he goes to something else, and then he'll go back to something, and then he'll go to something else. It takes you out of it, I think.
It kind of sounds like that Neil Brennan comedy special, like Three
and
Mics.
that's exactly why I hated Neil Brennan, because it wasn't continuous all the way through. And I don't need your show.
All his stuff was good. It didn't need 3 different shows within one show.
I don't need your show to be exactly the same all the way through either, because I like a little bit of variety. But there's a
flow.
Yeah, exactly. There's a like Nick Thune, for example. He does some of his stuff as spoken material, then he'll switch to the acoustic guitar, then he'll switch back to the spoken material, then he'll switch to the electric guitar, and then he'll switch back, and it flows really well. But
kind of like Nick Offerman's special, where like he'll just stop and sing a song. He'll sing a song about what he talked about.
Yeah, exactly, and that flows well. But this, because of how it broke up, it took me out of it. I didn't find any of it particularly funny, and
I don't think it helps, and we kind of talked about this earlier. I don't think it helps that he's been kind of away from the game.
Well, he just put out
a special.
He put out a special a couple of years ago called Live at the Time, and that was good. It's on Netflix, or at least it was.
Like he's been kind of like under the radar for me.
Yeah, he's not top of the. He is no John Mulaney. We'll put it that way.
He's no John Mulaney or Whitney Cummings. Like he's not just like forcing his way into everyday conversation.
So it was all right. If you like it, watch it, and if you don't, well then don't tell me about it, because I don't want to hear about it.
That's fair.
I watched the new episode of Explained this week. We talked about astrology. That was interesting.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Oh.
Kind of goes into the different.
That's crazy you said that, because I looked up my astrology sign this week.
It's.
Aren't you an Aries?
Yeah, well, you like yes, but I also like there's more in depth charts to it.
There's
and I was like
kinds of stuff that I learned about.
Yeah, and I was
20-minute bit.
I can imagine so. That's curious.
It sounds like something that I wouldn't be into.
Definitely not. No.
It's not. See, astrology is not something that I'm into, because I think it's all a bunch of ridiculousness. But I do like how the thing is that at one point astrology was science. Like scientists were the ones that were putting out the astrology charts, and then there was a diversion on it when they realized that obviously has nothing to do with it, because basically the explanation they give in the episode is that when people thought that the Earth was the center of the universe, and it made sense that the movement of stars and planets would all be human focused.
Yeah.
But then as soon as you break away and the sun is the center of the solar system, and the Earth is no longer the center of all things that are in existence, then it's harder to have the planets and the stars be part of your have any real bearing on human life. And that's where you get the scientific split and the astrology split. And then it got worse when we came up with the scientific method, because astrology does not fit into the scientific method of hypothesis, test, report, and then continue the cycle over. So That's where you get.
It sounds like someone who really enjoyed this
It was
episode.
fantastic. I would recommend that anyone watch Explained every week because it's just that good.
It's nice to learn a little bit of information about
Exactly.
stuff.
It's 20 minutes.
Just enough to
It's
pique your
fast.
interest.
It's exactly, and it isn't as in depth that you can sit there and be bored because by the time you're done, you're like, oh yeah, well I feel like I learned a lot about this, and if I want to learn more, I can. Otherwise,
Yeah.
I'm just going to continue on and wait till next week. So that's what I like about it.
It's more enough to give you something for conversation
Exactly.
purposes, eh?
So you can,
Okay.
Or podcast.
yeah, it's for
Yeah.
podcasting.
Well,
it's prime
we're-
podcast material.
There we go.
I watched Theo Vaughn again because obviously
Obviously.
because I got a new toaster for my birthday.
New toaster. Nice.
So that was a lot of fun. I love that special a lot. I watched Hot Fuzz, and that was
Yes.
fantastic. We talked about that.
As aforementioned.
Yes, exactly. I watched The Man, and paused it several times just so that I can
Take in
so I
Toronto.
can take in the Toronto scenery. I watched Hot Shots for the first time. Andrew, I don't know if you knew whether I'd seen the movie or not when you got it for me.
You've seen the sequel, haven't you?
Nope, I don't think so.
Oh, I thought you watched the sequel at Ray's house.
I may have watched the sequel at
'Cause
Ray's
it's-
house. I don't remember watching the sequel at Ray's
Well, that's
house.
why I got it. I also felt like it was just a ridiculous 90s
It's
comedy that you
perfect.
would appreciate.
I was gonna say
It
that
was
falls
made
under
by-
like the Naked Gun
Yeah,
category.
Yeah.
It was made by the
Yeah.
people that made Airplane. It was perfect.
Yeah. Yes. I knew you would enjoy it, but if I bought it because I thought you'd seen the sequel.
I don't remember
That's-
seeing the sequel. I may have, but I haven't watched because you got me both, right? So I don't remember if I've seen it because I haven't watched the sequel again.
I can't remember if it's the first or the second one. I think it's the second one where, like, the beginning, they go undercover to track down Charlie Sheen's character in, like,
that's
the
the second
rainforest. The second one, yeah, and they do the fight in the, like, in the, like, the wooden tent thing, like, the shack. And he's, like, they got the gummy bears and, like, all the food. Like, it's so obtuse.
Well, yeah, it's exactly like Airplane, except it's a Top Gun parody. Like that's,
Yes, and it's amazing.
It's so good. Like the one character's name is the mailman, and his tagline is "You gotta push the envelope." That was so funny.
Well, I'm glad you like it, Craig.
So I watched.
Happy birthday.
I watched that, and I can't wait to watch Hot Shots too. And then I also started watching News Radio, which is a TV show we've talked about on here,
Yes.
starring Dave Foley and Joe Rogan and Phil Hartman, rest in peace. Yeah, I forgot how funny that show was. And Kurt
on,
Fuller, who's in Psych, is in the first episode. And then
You said that Woody.
never again. You know what? I recognized him as soon as I heard his voice, but I forgot that he was in it because it'd been years since I've seen it. And so is Stephen Root, who is the dad on Mike and Dave Need Wedding Dates. He's their dad.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Which I didn't.
Oh, yeah,
I
yeah, he
didn't
is. Yeah, yeah,
recognize
yeah.
him until I heard his voice and he was talking. He's also in Office Space as the weird guy with the red stapler. But
Yeah.
yeah, I didn't recognize him until I started watching that. So that show's really good. I like it.
Man, I totally forgot that Joe Rogan was on that
Yeah,
show.
he is. He's not
Very young
so
Joe Rogan.
He's not in the first episode. They replace him and don't talk about it.
Yeah.
So it's a character.
Damn.
he talks about that on his podcast at one point.
The
I remember.
character's name is the guy who he replaces. His name is Rick. He's just a guy.
Okay.
I don't know who he is. And then episode 2, it's Joe Rogan, and the concept is that time is not supposed to have passed between the first and the second episode. At least not much time has supposed to have passed between the first and second episodes. And yet Joe acts like he's been there forever. So
He was just sick.
Gotta love those series pilots.
yeah, the pilot, like, good on the pilot for having Kurt Fuller in it, but also, like, just deciding that Joe Rogan needed to come in, like,
Why not? Why not? Joe Rogan's
I don't have a
awesome.
complaint with Joe Rogan being on the show, but I just think it's funny that that it seems like he's not there, or that, like, he's been there forever, even though he wasn't in the first episode. Just silly.
Well, I'm glad I knew you liked that one already, so that's why you got it.
I did like that one for Phil Hartman and Dave Foley, who's just ridiculous. There's one scene in one of the episodes. I watched 3 episodes, something like that. One of the episodes, they say that you can't smoke in the office anymore, and Phil Hartman smokes like a friggin' chimney. So, like, he's supposed to be quitting, and Dave Foley's supposed to be quitting coffee at the same time. And they're both really irritable, and I can't remember who he's talking to, but they both explode, and it's absolutely hilarious. But Dave Foley doesn't sound convincing at all, and Phil Hartman it's hilarious when he yells. And yeah, it was funnier in my head.
One of those things I'd have to
see. It was a better anecdote if you watch it. Just go watch it. It's a good show.
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely. Maybe I'll borrow it from you.
You're gonna have to. You have to fight with my dad for it first, though.
Fair enough. I'll take my time. I'll wait for it.
There's
Scott,
a lot to get to.
What did you watch this week?
Well, I didn't watch quite as much as you guys did. I just started rewatching Star Trek Discovery, just because I felt like rewatching that before the next season comes out. There's only like 15 episodes, so
Quick and easy.
Yeah, I started watching this show called The Americans because the first season came from the library, so I'm like, yep, gotta watch that now.
Who's in that?
So that I could, Carrie Russell, the one lady that just. Here, I got the DVD here. Give me a second. Nobody I can really comes off the top of my head.
I
What's
hate
her
when
name?
that happens, but you know the people, and you just.
Well,
can't
I only
think
know
of it.
the one chick because she just
Can I see the cover?
Oh, well, it's like half blocked by the thing. That's why I'm like, this isn't helpful because this is the
Carrie
that's
Russell,
the-
Matthew Reese.
That's who it was. Carrie Russell. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So she just got cast in the next Star Wars. That's the only reason I know her name at all.
Oh, okay.
But the show's about like Russian spies who are undercover in 80s America as just like, family staying undercover, but they have to do these different like secret missions. They're still working for the Soviet Union. And it's pretty good. It reminds me of like a Mad Men kind of feel, but
Okay.
with spies as opposed to ad guys, but it's still got that same like that just vibe, you know what I mean? That look of that like retro look, even though it's only the 80s as opposed to, the 50s, 60s, whatever Mad Men was now. Forgetting. But yeah, it's just
60s, 70s.
that's 60s, 70s. Okay,
Yeah.
So I think this is 70s, 80s. I think it's the 80s, and this one, it's just before the fall of the Soviet Union. I know that, but
Okay.
there's 5 seasons of it. It's just finishing up on TV, or just finished up on TV. But yeah, I just got the first season, and it's pretty good. It's interesting. I haven't really watched a normal show like this in too long, or started a new normal show like this that's not superhero or sci-fi involved. So yeah, but it's pretty good. I like a spy show, and it's just like I said, it reminds me of like a Mad Men type feel, whereas you can't really like peg down what happens episode to episode because a lot's going on. But like overall, they're just doing they're doing spy stuff, you know what I mean? Whereas I describe Mad Men, they're doing ad business stuff, right? Like I'd give it that same vibe. But I'm liking it so far, so I'll keep giving it a go. I'm not sure if I'll make it through all 5 seasons, but that depends on the library. But the only other thing I really watched was besides my normal things, rewatching Supernatural and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was I watched Mission Impossible 2, which was supposed to be a rewatch for my one YouTube series, and then I started watching it and realized I've never seen it. So yeah, that was an interesting to learn as I was watching it that I had never seen this before, and I had to figure that out. So yeah, we seem to have lost Andrew though, so I don't know if I should keep going or not. I don't know if Craig can hear me though either. Yeah,
I didn't freaking notice. Uh-oh.
And so yeah,
This part of the episode is going to be really weird.
Keep it going. Everything's
Yeah.
starting up. He says on his BBM.
All right.
We
I'm
could
just
probably
gonna-
just wrap it.
Yeah,
Do we want to wrap it up?
I'm going to cut his part of this out, but yeah, let's wrap it up. We're pretty much done.
We can wrap
right?
it
You're
up.
all
I was at the
finished
end of
with
my
your-
list. I was just going to talk about how I hadn't seen Mission Impossible 2 before, but
Oh, well, neither have I. So
that's why it doesn't work right now. I was like,
Exactly.
I needed Andrew for this part.
no one can even be like, "Hey, why didn't you?" Because I haven't seen it either.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
anyways,
Yeah, that's
Well-
it. That's it this week. Unfortunately, Andrew is disappeared.
Yep.
Hopefully we'll get him to say bye as part of his recording, and I'll just add it in on the end. I don't know.
We'll
this
see.
This is a first for this podcast.
This is different, but
we almost made an entire year without any real significant technical glitches, except for like audio and video problems. This is pretty good.
Yeah.
Anyway.
But thanks for sticking with us, guys.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye, guys.